on this 51st birthday, we're excited because some of our things are going to be archived in some of our national archives at the Smithsonian with the American History Museum. And so Reverend Perry is going to talk a little bit more about some of those items. And we are so grateful to get to put that history out for other people to know about. And whatever ways that's going to happen, we're not quite sure what, but we're excited to hear about that when it comes time to. And we are just so grateful that his story gets to be told because it's our story too, right? Because indeed we do make history and we are history. So with that, I invite Reverend Elder Troy Perry to come forward to address us.
God bless you. Amen. If you love the Lord this morning, would you say amen? Amen. Oh, what a joy to be here with all of you. I want to tell you something. I want to thank you, Lauren, for that sweet, sweet introduction to our moderator who read the proclamation from the mayor. I didn't expect that. I want to thank Reverend Johnson and Reverend Alexander, the board and the staff of this church, and all the members of this wonderful, wonderful church here in Washington, D.C. I just want to say thank you. All of you clergy from our other churches, I look out and I could start naming people, and I'm not, but I see my brother David Williams over here, and David, somebody told me you just spoke at the United Nations, the conference there on AIDS, and I want to thank you for that. So I want to tell you, my wonderful husband, we're getting ready to celebrate our 35th anniversary. Philip, Rita Blake. My brother Eugene, who hasn't been to church in 40 years, and his wife, my sister-in-law, Brigitta. Would you two stand up? Let everybody meet you. Eugene is representing my other three brothers who couldn't be here today, two of them in Florida and one in Las Vegas, where Eugene Brigitta lives. You know, I just want to tell you how deeply we're honored to be a part. Well, before I do that, there's one other person, I'm sorry, that I want to introduce right quick. Reverend Steve Peters brought some special guests with him this morning, and you're going to have to forgive me. I keep asking Philip. Now, let me say your last name's right, so please forgive me if I say your last name wrong. But I want to tell you we're delighted to have today Chaplain Colonel Diane Waddle. Okay, am I close? Okay. I want to tell you, and she has worked as Director of the Religious Affairs in the office of the Chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, and she's dealt with two of the chairmen. And I want to tell you that her husband is here with us, Lieutenant Colonel Paul. We're so glad you're here too, retired. She is an ordained Presbyterian minister, and she was present at the Pentagon on 9/11 and was part of the team that went into the wreckage of the Pentagon right after the plane crashed to pull people out and minister to those who survived. A real American hero. Would you stand up, please, and let us just welcome you this morning. I'm just really glad you're here. I've got to tell you, too, I'll come back to that about Steve in a few minutes, but let me move back. I want to tell you today, as we celebrate 52 years, I couldn't have done it without all of you. believed in the vision that God gave me, walked with me, marched with me, fasted with me. All these years we've lived, 52 years later, to see what we've seen. Who would have thought we would have been getting married? I used to pray for the day, and this church played such a role. Every time I came to Washington, D.C., I spoke at all the National March on Washingtons. And I came to this church first and had this church lay hands on me. The last time David North, who was just up here singing, where's David? David over here? I had to fight our committee in the year 2000, but I wouldn't give up, to permit the gospel choir from this church to sing. I couldn't understand how all of these white folks from all over the nation who was coming into town didn't understand the culture of the city they were coming to. And so I took our gospel choir with Dolores Berry right up on the stage. They kept trying to push me to the end. And I said I was supposed to be number 3. I'm not being pushed. I and my choir is marching up there now. I don't care what y'all think. And I told David and I told Dolores, make it hard for me to talk after y'all get through. And you know what? They got up, and Dolores got up in that big hat of hers, danced in the spirit, 1 million people jumping up and down. Finally, they saw something. Amen. And so y'all know me. I get into trouble sometimes. How deeply we're honored to see a part of our history go into the National Museum of American History at the Smithsonian. As someone whose book, The Lord is My Shepherd and He Knows I'm Gay, was banned in the state prison system of Florida, where I was born, for glorifying homosexuality, they said, to today is just unbelievable. When I talked to the Smithsonian about what I wanted to give, they gave me some guidance, and I so appreciated Kathryn giving me some guidance about what they were looking for. And the first thing I thought of, the bottom one, my mother gave this to my brothers and I. She and her little North Florida country girl way of doing things, she set up one of these books for each one of us. The first few pictures were of our grandmother, grandmom, Driggers Allen, the last name Georgia Driggers Allen. And she has my baby pictures in here. She has my first grade pictures in here. Big ears and all back then, you know. But I have photographs in here, 2 of mine in the U.S. Army. I'm a Vietnam-era veteran. Very proud of that, too. And I want to tell you, me, just before I founded MCC, within months before I founded the church, right after I founded the church, Philip and I, when we met, we were pretty. A marriage picture and a 50th anniversary picture. And the Smithsonian is getting those. That was under family. My second grouping was the founding of Metropolitan Community Church. This holds my heart. It's my book of common prayer that I held the first communion service in MCC out of this. When the Smithsonian gets it, they'll see where I've marked stuff that I used. My first marriage, 2 young Hispanic men called me in Huntington Park, California and said, "Reverend Perry, would you marry us?" December of 1968, they were married out of this book. More AIDS funerals than I can count out of this book. I don't have it here. I've already sent it to the Smithsonian. The photograph that was used in the first ad of Metropolitan Community Church of me that I used in that ad. And the last thing under founding, in my handwriting, is my sermon starting in 1969. They'll never be able to read it. We're going to have to get the Lilly Foundation to pay to hire somebody with the gift of interpretation to do that. The next item, I call it persecution. We have a glass cross made from the glass from the window of the mother church that was broken out after the 1973 fire. We have a hymn book that went through the fire. Ministry, charter from Metropolitan Community Church of San Francisco, the thing we gave to every MCC as they joined the denomination back in those days. General Conference program books. Prison ministry handbook. We had to sue the state of California to get in, but I've never been. That's what courts are for, amen. Again, they promised me a good time. I take them to court. And, you know, it's all right to sue people, amen. If they don't treat you like everybody else, you need to sue them, amen. I'm sorry. A very famous pamphlet that sold more copies than anything we ever published or printed. Homosexuality, not a sickness, not a sin. What the Bible does and does not say, by Reverend Don Eastman. And they have the originals in Spanish and English that we sent to them. An inclusive hymnal from 1990. With our songs for gay pride, we list them in there. And then we have Reverend Steve Peters, all of his records for HIV/AIDS and the magazines we printed. Steve, my mother and his mother and father, planned his funeral. Steve was so ill and sick. And Steve made it through and has almost died again several times. But here he is. He and Philip has been HIV positive to the brother who spoke earlier for 33 years that we know of. So, you know, Philip said, when he found out he was HIV positive, he said, "I'm going to kill myself." I said, "Not in this house. I'm going to lay hands on you. I'm going to be a Pentecostal with you." I said, "I want you to know this." And I said, "I'm going to rebuke that illness every night." I said, "I believe Jesus is still in the healing business. And I said, I have a word of prophecy for you. You're going to grow to be an old man. Amen. The other thing in Steve's collection was something. Steve bought a fairy wand. And he took that fairy wand and used it and preached a sermon called, Do You Believe in Fairies? Preached it in hundreds of churches, conferences. I mean, just would not let it go. And used Peter Pan as the gospel. Amen. If you know Tinkerbell's going to live, you got to believe in fairies. That's what the kids' book says. Amen. Justice. Next few collection. The rainbow stole that's been worn by me at all the couples demonstrations for same-gender marriage rights that were held in conjunction with our national marches on Washington. Program of our Faith and Freedom Service held in conjunction with the 25th anniversary of Stonewall, held at Lincoln Center and Alice Tully Hall in New York City. Reverend Pat Bumgardner and her partner Mary Jane were there. We had her choir and a choir from Unity Fellowship African American Church in that city. We had church there too. A copy of Life magazine from 1971 that has a photograph of my performing a same-gender marriage with my Book of Common Prayer in the photograph from Life magazine. I like to prove to people it really, that's the way it was. We have a cartoon from our general conference, just to show we have a sense of humor too. And the last thing, the vestments that I wore for the 50th anniversary of Founder's Metropolitan Community Church in Los Angeles, and more at the general conference celebration, 50th anniversary celebration in Orlando, Florida. I'm so thankful to God that I've lived this long. I thought I'd never grow old. But I'm so thankful. When you're raised in a poor family by a single mother, my father died, Eugene's father. Our father died when I was 12 years old. My mother somehow kept us together. My mother was the first heterosexual member of Metropolitan Community Church. When my mother died, my Aunt Eula May and Aunt Euthabel came out to California, her sisters. And Aunt Euthabel, bless her heart, she sometimes did not understand my being gay. There was no two ways about it. And Aunt Eula May, Aunt Euthabel was not there, I'm sorry, Aunt Eula May was there. She took Mother's obituary from the LA Times back to Florida. My Aunt Euthabel started reading it and just went into space. And Aunt Eula May said, "What is wrong? How dare Troy Perry call his mother a heterosexual?" My aunt said, "Because that's what you are and I am." Thank you all. Thank you, Smithsonian. What an honor near the end of my life. To be here today. And to have someone who's very, very fighting for us at the Smithsonian to make sure we include it in the story of America too. God bless you all.
And now we want to invite Kathryn Ott from the Smithsonian to address us.
Good morning, everyone. I'm still drying my eyes. So I'm a historian and a curator at American History, and we've been documenting and preserving American history for over 150 years. And for me, it's gifts like these, or should I say blessings, because that's what they represent, which make my job so rich and wonderful. We're stewards of history. We're stewards of people's stories, not of souls, but we're stewards of the past. And part of our mission is to bring that past forward and make it relevant and known, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because if it stays in the past, it just rots and it destroys things. And this story is so beautiful. It's amazing. And I am just so thankful and grateful to Reverend Troy and to Reverend Lauren, who was the initiator of the first conversations to get it going. One of the last thing I'll say is that part of our history, because I'm queer, is the risk that we all share in being different and being ourselves. And that is so much a part of MCC and the strength and the perseverance. And so thank you, Reverend. Thank all of you as well, and come to the museum sometime. There's an exhibit about us, a tiny one, about illegal to be you. And there's other stuff too, but you should come on down.
Let's celebrate. Let's celebrate. Oh, happy day.
Oh, happy day.